Have you ever wanted to try making cardstock crafts with your Cricut machine but weren't sure where to start? If so, this video is for you. Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah. In this video, I'm showing you how to use one of the standard sized Cricut machines, so that's the Cricut Explore Air 2, Air 3, the Maker or the Maker 3, to make cute little cardstock projects. Cutting card and paper with a Cricut is my absolute favourite material to make, and I'm excited to be here today to show you how you can start using it too. In this video, we'll be making this adorable little heart paper craft. I'll show you how to upload the SVG file into Cricut Design Space, how to colour it if you want to change the colours, how to resize it, and then how to get all the pieces cut out from your Cricut machine. I'll then show you at the end how to stick it all together, including how to get some lovely depth between the pieces. If you have a different type of Cricut cutting machine, such as the Joy or Joy Extra, or if you have a different brand entirely, such as a Silhouette or a Scan and Cut, then head to craftwithsarah.com/help. From there, you can choose your particular type of cutting machine, and then there's a separate video for this exact same tutorial, but that focuses on your specific machine. But if you are using one of the standard size Cricut machines, just like this one, which is an Explore Air 3, then you're already in the right place, so let's get started. The first part of this video is the same no matter what type of cutting machine you're using. Once you've chosen the file that you want to make and you've downloaded it, whether it's from craftwithsarah.com or another source, you'll probably find that it comes as a zip folder. You'll need to unzip this or uncompress it before you can upload the cut file into your cutting machine's software. The instructions for doing that are a little bit different if you're on a Windows computer, a Mac, or a mobile device. On a Mac, you can usually just double-click on the zip folder to unzip it. I'll show you how to do it on a Windows computer, which is what I'm using shortly. If you're using a mobile device, whether it's Android or iOS, head to craftwithsarah.com/help, and on that page is a link to a more detailed video and tutorial on how to unzip folders on all those different types of devices. If you're on a Windows computer, find your zip folder. It will probably be in your Downloads folder. Right-click on it and press Extract All. Choose where you want to save it on your computer and then press Extract. You can see that's made a copy of the folder, only this time it doesn't have the zip on the picture. It's showing an open folder and it doesn't end .zip in the file name. So this is the one I want to use when I'm getting the file into my cutting machine software. Next, it's time to upload the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Again, this is the same no matter what type of Cricut machine you're using. If you'd like a tutorial on how to upload using the mobile app version of Design Space, again, head to craftwithsarah.com/help, choose Cricut Machine from the list of machine options, and there's a separate tutorial in there. Click New Project at the start, and then Blank Canvas. Or a slightly easier way to do it is just to press Canvas on the top left of the screen, and that will open a blank project for you. Go into Upload along the left, and then press the green button that says Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or you can drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the download folder. If you're using one of my free SVGs or one of my newer designs, then you'll see a folder structure which looks something like this. You've got a 00 instructions file at the top, and then it goes down in numerical order with lots of different options. If you're using a Cricut machine, it's super easy because there's a folder in there called 01 Cricut version. That's really the only file that you'll need apart from the instructions and the assembly guide, and also you might want to keep these other three too. But you can delete, if you want to, the 02, 03, 04, 05 and 06 folders if you'd rather save some space on your computer, because if you've got a Cricut, you just need the one that says 01 Cricut version. If you're using one of my older designs, the file structure looks a little bit different and you'll only see a few files in the download folder. If that's the case and that's what you're seeing, make sure you choose the file that starts SVG in the file name. That's the one you need for Cricut machines. The SVG might be in lowercase letters or it might be in uppercase. That doesn't matter as long as you choose the one that starts SVG, that's the correct one to use. But if you're using one of the newer files, then what you want to do is go into that 01 Cricut version folder, and then within there will just be one file, and it will start SVG-01 in the file name. That's the right one you want to choose. So I click and drag that in, and it will look like this. So it looks like a completed picture, but don't worry, once it's uploaded onto your project, you'll be able to see all of the different pieces that make up the design and all the different layers. Press continue, and then on this screen, if you want to, you can name your image or add it to a collection. I'm not going to do that. I'll just go straight ahead and press upload, and then it will insert onto your project. To see the different layers that are making up this design, you can click the arrow next to it in the layers panel, and that will then show all the pieces. I've chosen this design for this video as it's quite simple with only 4 different layers and it's 3 colours. So you'll be able to see as you follow along with me how we can cut different colours from cardstock with a Cricut machine. If you want to change the colour of any of the layers, you can do that by clicking on them in the layers panel. Make sure you've just got the one layer that you want to change the colour of. And then in the drop down here, click the colour, and then you can choose any of the colours in here to change it. If I move this over, it'll be a bit more obvious. You can also click Advanced, and then you can drag and drop to get a wider range of colours. But I'm going to put mine back to that original red and cut this in those 4 colours so it matches. The next thing to do is to make sure you've got the correct Cricut machine selected. So at the moment on the top right of my screen it says Explore 3. You can click on that and it will give you a list of all the different types of Cricut machine, so you can choose the one that you're going to be using. For this video I am going to use a Cricut Explore 3. If you've got one of the older Cricut Explorers, you would choose the Cricut Explore family, or for the Maker or Maker 3, those also work in a very similar way to the Explore 3, so this video is suitable for the Maker 3, Maker, Explore 3 or Explore family. Just make sure you've chosen the correct one. I'll cover the Joy Xtra and the Joy in a separate video. I don't have a Cricut Venture, which are the really, really big, massive, huge machines, so I can't show you how to do it in that one, but I've got all the other ones covered. Alright, so I'm going to stick with my Cricut Explore 3. To resize the design, you can click on it. Make sure the padlock icon above the width and the height box is closed. And then you can type either the width or the height. Press enter on your keyboard and the other measurement changes and keeps everything in proportion. However, I am going to cut mine at that original 4 inches, so I'll just make it smaller again. So mine's 4 inches wide and 3.6 inches tall. If you want to save your project before we start cutting, you can do that by clicking save and then give it a name in here. And then if you want to, you can give it a collection, which is sort of like a folder to put it in to make it easier to find at a later date, and then hit save. This is now all ready for me to start the cut process. When you're ready to start cutting, press make over on the top right. This will separate out all the colours for you. If you want to, you can change the paper size in the drop down over here. I'm using A4 card, so I'll change all of mine to A4. You will need to change it for every colour individually if you want to change it. Because we're cutting cardstock, we do not need to mirror anything, so don't tick that mirror option. You can move things about to save space on your cardstock by clicking and dragging. For instance, I could do that. I'm not sure that's actually saved me much space, but let's go with it anyway. When you're happy with how everything is looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut. Now bear in mind, it's going to cut whichever one you had selected in that previous step. It can be easiest to go right back to the top, click on the number 1 first, and then you know that it will cut in order. Just make sure whichever one is this lighter colour, that's the colour card that you put on your map, because that's the one that the Cricut is going to cut. There's nothing worse than accidentally cutting the wrong shapes out of the wrong colour. For cutting cardstock, these are the 4 settings that I use most often: medium cardstock, light cardstock, heavy cardstock, and craftboard. Most often I'm using the heavy cardstock setting. To find those, you can click Browse All Materials, type card into the option, and then they'll all appear. You can narrow it down a bit more by typing cardstock. To bookmark any of these so that they show on your screen straight away without having to look for them each time, click this little flag icon. When I'm using things like glitter card or holographic card, which are really thick, that's when I tend to use the craftboard option. This time I'll go with heavy cardstock. If you find your card is cutting through too much or not enough, you can change the pressure, but I tend to keep it on default. We're not using any special tools, so we don't need anything in Clamp A. Clamp B will be your regular Cricut blade that came with the machine, and now it's telling us to load the mat and then press the load unload button on the screen. Next, collect together the things that you'll need to make the project. A light blue cutting mat is best for cardstock, or you can use a green standard grip mat, but if you're going to use a green one, a bit of an older one that's maybe losing its stick a bit would be better. The light blue ones are the light grip mats. It will be very helpful if you have a brayer tool, because you can use this to make sure your card is really well stuck to your cutting mat to help get better cuts. If you don't have one, then you could maybe use a rolling pin from the kitchen, or you could use a Cricut scraper tool. Scraper tools are also super helpful for getting off any leftover bits of card that we don't want to stay stuck on the mat. This is a particularly large one, usually they're about half the size, but it doesn't matter what size you've got. You may also want to have a little tub or container to put the pieces in as you're cutting them out to make sure you don't lose anything along the way. And of course, you'll need your cardstock. So I've got my 3 different colours here, a red, a pink, and a white. For the white, I'm using one of my leftover bits of card from another project, which is why it's not showing as quite a complete sheet. And of course, you'll need your cutting machine all plugged in and ready to go. I'm using an Explore Air 3, but as I said, this is similar for any of the Explorers, the Maker or the Maker 3. Here's my machine, it's all opened up, it's plugged in, it's turned on, we're ready to go. To lay the cardstock onto your mat, first take off the see-through protective cover. And then underneath here, it's all sticky. I'm doing the white first, so I've got my white card, and then align it along the top corner where you've got the guidelines. So I'm going to line that up so it follows the line up here and the line down there. If you've got a brayer tool, use it now. Go over quite firmly to make sure your cardstock is really well stuck to the mat. Or, as I said earlier, you can use a scraper tool. Just be careful not to mark your card if you're using this, because it's got a bit of a harder edge. That's my material on my mat. So let's bring the machine back so you can see a little easier. The type of buttons on your machine will vary a little bit depending on what model you're using, but that's all very similar. So you should be able to figure it out if you've not got the Explore Air 3. It'll be very similar to what I'm about to show you. Take your mat, and then this will be the top left, the bit where we've got the top left of our material. I'm going to thread it under these 2 little plastic pieces here, and then hold it up against the rollers on these sides. So I've pushed it in as far as it'll go. Then press the load unload button, which is the flashing button on here. That will take the mat in, and it's going to do a few little checks. Now that everything's stopped, the go button is flashing, and also my screen on my computer will have changed too. So let's take a little look at that. The screen has now updated, so now it tells me what I need to do down here. It says press go, which is the flashing go button. So I'm going to go back to the Cricut machine and show you that. So let's do what it says. Press the flashing go button. This will start the cut. On my computer screen now, it says that it is cutting, and because I've chosen a heavy cardstock setting, it's going to cut the line of the heart twice to make sure it's going to go through. If you're using the light or the medium cardstock setting, it will probably just do one pass, so you won't notice this. But if you're using a heavier setting, don't panic if it decides to cut it twice. That's what it's supposed to do. When it's finished, the load unload button will start flashing, and the computer screen will also change to tell you to unload the mat. If you're not sure if it's cut all the way through, you can do a test first before you eject the mat to see if it has cut. So you can very carefully, without taking the mat out, try to lift your shape off of the mat. You might find a weeding tool or a spatula can help with this to get it out. I'm actually just going to pick that up there. So I can see by lifting that up that it has cut really nicely, so that's good. If you tried picking it up and it hadn't cut out, what you can do is repeat the cut by pressing the play button again. So don't press the load unload, press the play. That will repeat the cut in exactly the same place, which should hopefully mean that if it hasn't cut through yet, then on that second go round, then it will. But mine's looking good, so let's press load unload, and this will spit the mat out at me. There we go. Now I need to take this off of my Cricut mat so that I can load the next colour. The easiest way to get cardstock off of a Cricut mat is to turn the mat upside down and then peel the mat away from the card rather than doing it this way round and trying to peel the card off. If you did it this way and peeled it off like this, you'll probably find that your cardstock will bend and roll up and won't lie flat anymore, and it won't look as good. But if you do it this way, by holding the cardstock flat against your surface with your hand and then gently bending the mat upwards, then you can make sure you hold the cardstock flat so that you don't get any rolling effect. Just make sure you don't fold your mat as you're going backwards, otherwise you might end up damaging it. But there we go, this is what we've ended up with, my lovely frilled heart, the bottom layer of the design. So it's now time to move on to the next colour. So let's take another look at the computer screen. You can see it over on the left hand side. This has now automatically moved me onto the second colour, which is my red. The white now has a tick by it to show that I've already cut this one. So what I'll do again is choose my heavy cardstock. If you didn't want to have to select that every time, you can tick the remember material settings and then it will automatically choose that heavy cardstock each time. And now we're just following that same process through again. So I need to load exactly the same, so I'm not changing anything here, but I need to put my red card on my mat and then load it into the machine. I got my mat and then add my card, brayer it down to get it really well stuck, and then I'll load it into the machine. So exactly the same as before, I'm sliding it in underneath these two plastic bits, holding it against the rollers. I'm not pushing hard, I'm just sort of resting it against them. Then press the load unload button. Now that's finished wearing away, the go button is flashing. My computer screen is telling me to push that button, so I'm going to push it. That's finished cutting. Once again, I can just lift up to see if that's cut through, which it obviously has because I could move that out. So mine is good. I can push the load unload button to get my mat back. There's one more colour to do, which is my pink. Rather than show you exactly those same steps again, I'm going to follow that through off camera, and then when it's finished cutting the final colour, then I'll show you how we can end the project in Design Space, and then we'll stick it all together. I've now cut out my pink cardstock and ejected the mat from the machine. So you can see now I have a tick down all of the different colours, which shows that I've cut all of them out. All I need to do now is press done at the bottom of the screen, and that will take me back to the project. Now that I've got all of the pieces of my heart cut out, it's time to stick them together. I like to use a combination of glue and foam squares so that I can give my paper crafts some dimension. With all of my paper crafts, if you look in the download folder that you originally got from my website, there is a file in there called Assembly Guide. Open that up and that will show you the order that all of the layers go in and whether I recommend sticking each one with glue or foam squares. If you don't have any foam squares, you can just use glue and it will still end up a beautiful paper craft project. What I like to do before I start sticking is to put everything in order following that assembly guide. You can print out the assembly guide if you want so that you've got it with you while you're crafting. And this one's pretty simple, it's only 4 pieces, so I can manage that one from memory. And there it is, so that's how it'll look when it's all put together. The reason I like putting all the layers on top of each other first is that I can check I've not accidentally lost anything along the way, and also that I'm just happy with how all the colours look when they're on top of one another. Because sometimes colours look great when they're next to each other, but when you actually start stacking them, you might notice that maybe there's not as much contrast or difference as you wanted, or maybe some of the tones don't go together very well. But that is all looking lovely. Any type of glue that you would usually use with your paper craft projects is fine. My current favourite glue is Bearly Art Glue, and I like this because it has a very thin nozzle on it, so the glue comes out really, really slowly, and it comes with a needle to put in so it doesn't dry out. This is a white glue, so it doesn't have a smell to it, it's nice and quick to dry, and it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some wet glues can do. For similar reasons, I also like Collall. This also doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock, but for this one, it comes with quite a big nozzle, so you'd probably want to buy some needle tip applicator bottles, which are tiny little bottles with little nozzles on to put the glue into, to make sure you can get it into all the little areas of your project without kind of spilling it or putting too much on. Collall is a solvent glue, so it does have a little bit of a smell to it, so bear that in mind, especially if you are sensitive to solvent products. Another glue I also quite like, but I don't use as much, is this Nuvo glue from Tonic Studios. These have a nice thin nozzle to them too, and it doesn't bend or wrinkle the card as long as you only use a little bit of it. If you use loads, it can have that wrinkling effect, which is why this one is third in my favourites. And also sometimes I found that they get a little bit clogged and hard to use, but generally this is still a great glue. I live in the UK and I get all of these glues online. Bearly Art Glue and Collall I buy on Amazon, and the Nuvo glue I buy direct from Tonic Studios. If you don't have any of those glues, that's absolutely fine, just use what you've got. The foam squares I like to use are from Dot & Dab. Again, I get these on Amazon. They come in different sizes, and these ones you can see are quite small. It tells you the size here. These are 5 by 5 millimeters, and these ones are double, so they're 10. So you can choose which one you use based on the size of the card that you're making. If you've only got larger foam squares, you can cut them smaller with scissors. These ones are both white, but you can also buy black foam squares, which can help if you're doing a darker paper craft project with lots of dark coloured layers, so that you can't see the edges of the foam when you turn the paper craft around. But generally, I don't really find that's a problem, even if I use the light ones on a black paper craft. You don't normally see them poking through unless you're looking really, really, really hard at it, which I don't think you would be that likely to do. With all of my paper craft projects, you'll start at the bottom and then work your way upwards. I'm going to move these pieces apart again and then start with this one. So if you look at the assembly guide, you'll see for this one, this is a glue layer. So I turn it around, so this is upside down, and add my glue. You want a good amount on here to make sure it'll be well stuck. And then put it in the middle of the frilly bit. And it's a bit hard to see because it's white card on a white table. Just wiggling that around to get it in the middle. There we go. If I put my hands under, you can see a little easier. And then for this design, that's the only glue one. So I'll add the needle tip back in my glue, put that to one side, and then get some foam squares for the rest. Next up is the pink heart, which will be done with the foam squares. So I'll turn it upside down and add some foam. Now this is quite a small piece of card, so I can get away with just 3 pieces. If your piece is bigger, you'll need more. If you have got a large piece, for example, something about this size, then you would want to add some foam squares in the middle as well as around the edge to make sure that you've got good stability across the whole shape for when you stick it on. If you don't add anything in the middle, you might find your card kind of bends downwards, domes downwards like that, where it's got nothing to support it. So adding a few extra foam squares in the middle really does make a difference on those larger bits of card. But this one's tiny, so 3 is just fine. Peel the tops off, and then you'll find that these are sticky underneath. You might want to keep a little pot or dish handy to get all of those little squares in, otherwise they tend to go everywhere. And then line that up just roughly in the middle, as close as you can get it, and push down to stick. And I got 1 little heart left. This is even smaller. I'll go for 2 bits of foam this time. And again, put that in the middle. And that's my heart done. It would then be ready to go on a greetings card, in a scrapbook, in a frame. You could add a little magnet on the back and put it on the fridge. There's so many things you could do. It would also make a nice gift tag if you maybe punched a hole in the top. So that was how to cut cardstock on your Cricut and get all of the layers stuck together once they're cut. Now that you've done your first cardstock project with your Cricut, I can't wait to see what you make next. Cardstock projects are my favourite, and I have over 1,000 different designs over at craftwithsarah.com. If you'd like to progress to some of the more complex layered designs that have more pieces in them, such as this fairy door design, then head to craftwithsarah.com/help. Choose Cricut from the list of machine options, and then there's a separate tutorial in there on how to make more detailed layered cardstock designs with your Cricut. So if you're not quite sure how to go from just a couple of pieces to loads and loads of colours and different pieces, that video is what I recommend watching next. But for now, thank you so much for watching along with me. Bye!